I've been stuck on your memory, but it's not like I need it. And we may have some history, but we don't have to repeat it. You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I'm gonna burn all the bridges between us.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Sunday GT Masters series. We are here at the Hungaroring for round 3 of the championship, and after round 1 right the way back at Okayama, round 2 at Twin Ring Motegi, we already know what's in store for us tonight. Lots of wheel-to-wheel action, lots of door-to-door action, maybe a little bit of contact along the way, but we won't be short of great racing. Joining me in the commentary box once again is Hasse at Rømer. Hasse, how are you?
I am fine indeed. Thank you, Jack. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure, as always, to be here with you for another round of the Sunday GT Masters. And interesting one. First visit for the series here at the Hungaroring, and first visit for me as well in iRacing. So it's going to be something new. I think we're going to see some good racing tonight. I don't think necessarily that the reputation the track has of being somewhere we just cannot overtake. That's someone bred from Formula 1. I don't think it's going to hold true here for tonight. I think we're going to see a lot of tight racing at the front of the field indeed here, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got to think, with Formula 1 coming here, Formula 2 coming here, Formula 3 coming here, very big championships. I'm not going to take away from that, but they're all open wheel, all very fragile cars, and massively rely on their aerodynamics. And as much as these GT3s also rely on their aerodynamics, and they can be quite fragile, they can take a little bit of wear and tear. And we've seen that. We've seen almost touring car action, but with great levels of sportsmanship between the drivers. So we could see some incredibly close racing. And like I say, that little bit of contact, a nudge here, a nudge there, and just elbowing each other wide, that is really what brings this championship together. And like you say, it's the first time I've ever commentated here, the first time you've ever commentated here, the first time the series has ever been here, so we're very much going into the unknown. It's a circuit I've never even driven on the iRacing simulator, so there's lots to look forward to, and I'm just looking forward to seeing how it's going to shape up.
Yeah, indeed, and the aspect as well that it is the open or the fixed setup, my apologies, is just going to make so that the drivers don't really have that adaptability in the car as well. So it's, if you don't like the way the car takes a certain corner, well, that's just too bad, basically, and you're gonna have to find the correct approach for that said corner. Coming through here, we're with Matthew Forrest, who is indeed, of course, the reigning champion, second in practice, which is just about to run out of time, still 2 and about half a minute to go. But Mr. Forrest here for Virtual Racing Compound. Trying to find the words for some of the on-track action we've seen again this season, Jack. It's been grand and just a continuation, basically, of what we saw last season, which was some of the best racing that I have seen, or I've ever seen, basically, especially when considering that it kept on going race after race after race. And you gotta love it when a series comes down to the wire, to the final race, and even sort of the final laps of the final race before it's even decided there. That's what we love to see, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad you brought up the setup as well, because it does separate the good drivers from the great drivers. Those drivers that can drive around the mechanical limitations of the car. They might be able to, like you say, pick up a corner where there's a little too much understeer for their liking or too much oversteer, but they just drive around that. They alter the entry and the exit to sort of minimize the impact that mid corner has on them, and that it really does allow the drivers that are very mechanically minded to almost know how to position the car and where to place the center of gravity in the car mid corner to make sure they get around as quickly as possible, but also without being maybe too aggressive. But yeah, like you say, this championship is going from strength to strength. The field is getting bigger. We're getting drivers from all around the world, from every corner of the world, quite literally on track at the moment. And it's only getting closer as well, because with more drivers sort of rolling their way into the championship, it's just allowing a massive, or almost a raft of different experience levels to come in. So you've always got somebody to race against. You're never left alone in this championship. You might be towards the top, towards the middle, towards the bottom. No matter where you are, you will always have some great racing. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the Hungaroring can do to that tonight.
Yeah, indeed, and I think something that the series has done that's really worked in that regard is to bring in the Pro and Am division of the field to sort of give the drivers that are not at the spiciest end of the field something to race for as well. And we've seen some really good action come out of that as well in the Am field. And mind you, of course, the team standings are kind of non-regarding of the Pro and Am stature, if I could get that out. And here we have it. It's SR Technic leading by 1 point ahead of Virtual Racing, and then Block It Like It's Hot sitting third, just a few points ahead of CB Racing. Still there, another further 1 point down in fifth ahead of Virtual Racing Compound Red. Apex Tech Racing 4 and 2, and you will look further down and find 1 and 3. Just to make sense of it, Jack, there, you know what I'm saying. Yeah. But indeed, and nice to see for once that it's a series that has a team standing as well. Anyway, when touching upon the points, it would be just so logical, Jack, to touch upon the driver standings right about now.
It would as well. I am going to have to refresh the overlay. Bear with me 2 seconds, Hasse. I'm not sure whether it's doing it on your screen, but it is doing it on mine.
It is.
Yep, yeah, overlaying them both. But here are the Pro standings, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Boland leading the way for CB Racing on 52 points. Only 9 points behind is Matthew Forrest. Then we get back to Nicholas Cacato, Gaston Messeroni, Nuno Vinagre on 40 points, 1 point behind the Virtua Racing driver. And then we get back to Martin de Jong, Rui Felipe, Remco Barlow, Chris Roberts and Timothy van der Broek rounding out your top 10 for Stage 1 racing. Then is Sasso Person, Jorge Pinero, Jose Skulj, Bruno Guides, Cohen Mulder, Nick McLaughlin, Pete Plasto and Eric Luke, the first of the drivers on 0 points. Not to take away from the battles I'm sure we will see him have. Then we get back to Pedro Marimon Cladera and Valdir Suarez Jr. Of course, Valdir Suarez, very popular driver in Season 1 of the championship, yet to make it out in Season 3.
Yeah, and it's one we really miss out on as well. He's brought so much good action to the series, especially in the first season, and indeed one of the main protagonists of that first season. Anyway, here is the overview of the AM standings, currently led by Virtua Racing's own Alfredo Tricarici, the Argentine driver, ahead of EJ Fuellner from Apex Tech Racing 3. Chris Pio third there in the 707 machine for Apex Tech Racing 1. And then Orkun Kolak, Stephen Orrell, Sandro Orsino, Timo Paya, then Ari Sherwood, Gaston Bori, Emanuele Lucioli, Federico Carli, Khan Barak, Ayarkan Ataberg, Damien Koba, and Berg Reski. We have a large number of drivers in the AM class. A few of them have yet to score their first points here, but we do indeed also have a gang of... So we took him from 11th. There's another 10 drivers on top of it.
There is.
Disregard whatever I said before. I could have made that out myself. It would probably have said 10th and not first. But it's not always you have the eye for details. Our apologies, and as the graphics clearly indicate as well, it's Cody Steeg leading the AM standings ahead of Giambattista Giacchetti and Craig Thompson, Matt Sissler, Sander Kaffer, Stuart Jacklin, and...
I'm sorry, this isn't me clicking anything, by the way.
Rob the Lobster, Robert van den Heuvel there, 7. In 8th, Matthew Maddox, then Sean Nicholson, Savino Melillo, and then you already know the order from there on. And with that little hiccup, technicalities aside, Jack, it's been an interesting opening 2 rounds of this championship. We're into these 15 minutes of qualifying for round 3. Do you think qualifying is going to have a bigger impact here at the Hungaroring than I'd say at Motegi, where we were a few weeks ago?
Yeah, I think so, because of course Motegi, while it does have quite a tight turn 1, I don't think it's quite as tight here, or quite as tight as it is here at Hungaroring. You've got lots of hairpins, you've got a chicane, a little bit of undulation change in sector 2, so I think getting in a good spot towards the start of the race will allow you to find a bit of fresh air, not cook your tyres trying to get past somebody, and then towards the latter stages of the race, after the pit stop window, it will allow you then to just sort of calm down into your position, and then you've got that extra bit of tyre life to use if you need it. And with it being a 45-minute race and an enforced pit stop, strategy is going to play a part as well, and track position around here, heading into the pit stop window, I think will massively help your race aspirations. So tonight it could be a tricky one to call. You might see somebody at the front end of affairs and go, yeah, they're on for a good result tonight. But then strategy, tyre life, and maybe even a little bit of fuel management as well. We've seen a lot of fuel strategy play a part in the opening 2 rounds of the season. So we could see a range of different strategies on show. And this being quite a tricky circuit, like I said, or like you mentioned earlier, none of the drivers or part of this championship, in this championship have raced here before. Whether they've done it in their own little iRacing adventures, I'm sure they have, but they haven't been here with this series before, so they don't know really who's the quicker, who's the slower drivers around here, because circuit choice can play a massive part in pace as well.
Oh yeah, it does really make a difference. Of course, you have those kind of alien drivers that seem to be able to learn any track to perfection, but that's not the case for most of them out there, and there will be preferences. There will be likes and dislikes for the drivers. Trying to find a bit of space here. Seems relatively crowded at the moment. It's surprising. So far we have Cody Steeg, an AM driver, on pole position overall, ahead of Pete Plasto, then Sasso Prosen, and Jorge Pinheiro, and of Remco Barlow and Chris Boland, with Gianbattista Piachetti 7th overall, 2nd in AM, and over a second off of Cody Steek. And just as I say that, we have a new provisional pole time that's set by Nicolas Cucato, a 1:44.785. And the Audi R8. I'm surprised to see the Audi being competitive here. Chris Boland goes 3rd fastest there with a 1:44.980, so just inside of the 44s. And something you touched upon as well, and it's been a trademark of the series for a while now, Jack, but the internationality, if you can call it that. That's even a word. It goes from the commentary booth and throughout the field as well. It's so nice to see a series that indeed spans the world. And with regards to that, actually, I think we see very, very few issues with connection and connectivity and such, net coding and all those kind of issues that you sometimes see when you're racing people located on the other side of the globe. I don't know how they do it, but maybe it's just people having good internet connections anyways, and then it doesn't really matter. But it's certainly nice to see, and it's great to experience how it's possible in the 21st century to interact across the globe virtually in this kind of way.
Yeah, I've got to say, obviously you alluded to netcode and things like that, which is for those that are maybe new to iRacing or sim racing in general. Netcode is obviously, if we've got drivers from all around the world, making sure everybody's got a perfectly stable connection and they can race millimetre to millimetre. It can't be expected because it's like you say, it's a global platform. But with the new iRacing updates coming out on top of the content, with the new circuits and the new cars, they are bringing yet more netcode improvements. So they're constantly working away at it, and it's constantly improving as well, Hasse. We're always seeing iRacing improve upon the already great foundations they've got, and a new pole sitter, Jorge Pinheiro, for the SR Technique team in his Lamborghini. A really good start to his session. It's not even the start anymore. In the final half of the session, he goes right to the top end of the time to 1:44.663 now, the provisional pole time, over a 10th clear of Nicolas Cucato, and it seems to be Lamborghinis and the Audis. So the rear engine, rear wheel drive cars, very, very quick. And I know if you peel back the skin, the Lamborghini and the Audi are very similar, but they do have their own little features which make them different to the other. And that's very close. Great avoidance driving from Jorge Pinheiro, only in qualifying. And hopefully we don't see too much avoidance driving, but if required, we now have the confidence that Jorge Pinheiro will be able to just show that off. And obviously we've got to take this time now, Hasse, to thank our sponsors. Of course, we've got Grip Engineering and SIMRACER coin on board. Grip Engineering brings the experience and methodology from the real world championships like the World Rallycross and Formula E. So very, very big championship, including the WRC generally as well. So very, very big championships, global championships to your sim rig. So what happens is you get all the same tools as professional drivers do, and a test session sort of takes place when one of the great people from Grip Engineering connects with you, and they do your line analysing, they analyse your driving generally, they check up on your telemetry, optimise your setup for your style, everything like that. And what's even better is the first introductory session, Hasse, you get 20% off. So why wouldn't you go to Grip Engineering to get world-class tutoring and setup changes, and you get 20% off as well? It would be silly to go elsewhere.
It's a bit of a steal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
It was great to have our sponsors along for the ride, of which we are grateful. And Pinheiro, you said it before, the rear-engine Lamborghini, as he goes wide there in turn 3. But technically, both the Lambo and the Audi, you'd call it mid-engine.
Yes, you would. I realised as soon as I said it.
There is, however, the rear-engine portion that's slightly different. The engine, though, being far enough onto the back that you can get that sort of pendulum effect. And if it's not tamed and controlled well, it's going to give some rather dicey handling characteristics to any car, basically. But we can also sort of use it to get that much needed rotation, and especially at a track here like Hungaroring with the amount of slow corners that are here. Well, that rotation can really make a difference here. It's Jordseskul. I believe that is the Slovenian flag, if I'm very much not mistaken.
I would say so as well. I would have put it Slovenian.
In the Apex Tech Racing 4 Porsche. Just to make sure that they don't throw all those points into one team, of course. That would make it maybe slightly too easy. No one's really been able to topple Jorge Pinheiro yet, the Portuguese, for SR Technique. Also leading there in the team standings that we could see earlier. Someone's gone off in the final turn. I think that was Pete Plasto. I'm not quite sure though.
There's Pete Plasto.
Well, that would make sense. He's just gotten going again there, I think.
Yeah. Nothing's popped up annoyingly saying that anybody's gone off the circuit. So it would be great obviously to have a look back at that, but I'm afraid we can't. And Pete running the standard livery for the Virtual Racing Compound blue team, but of course tonight you may have spotted a couple of the Virtual Racing Compound cars are running a blue and yellow scheme, obviously to support what is going on in the world at the moment and supporting who they feel is necessary. So it's great to see that whilst politics, in my eyes, doesn't have a place in motorsport, in the regard that we're talking now, they have just made this subtle change to show their support and almost show their opinion, but not doing it in an unnecessary way. It's very subtle, but it still carries meaning, which is obviously great to see. They're not throwing it in your face, they're just doing it for the moment, and I'm sure next round it will be back to normal, but it's nice to see that they've done it in a nice, subtle way.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see if we can translate that to pace on track as well. Remco Barlow, I think, this season has yet to really string together his run. And he showed promise on so many occasions, but just sort of seems to select the final 1 or 2%. And then, of course, take into consideration that we've had an incident-packed race as well at Motegi, which proved to be slightly atrocious indeed. And I don't know if that was really anticipated as such, but it's sometimes hard to avoid. And with the size of the field, the size of the grid here, as we're entering the final minute of qualifying, so Remco Barlow is just gonna make it on, or just there's another minute, but those who make it on to their final lap before the timer runs out, of course, is gonna be allowed to complete that set lap. I think Nicolas Cucato certainly went quickly there with a 1:44.539. That's about half a tenth ahead of Matthew Forrest at the moment. And then Jorge Pinheiro now in third at the moment. So really, really close at the head of the field there, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. Matthew Forrest will get another lap. He crossed the line with around about 30 seconds left on the timer. So this is going to be the final attempt for him to retake pole position. And like I say, half a tenth in theory behind that pole position is Matthew Forrest. So he's got a little bit of work to do. But if he can manage it, he does have the draft assistance of Alfredo Tricarici up the road, if I'm not mistaken. There is Alfredo. So not too far in front, but just enough to get some aerodynamic benefit. There's Matthew Forrest, not far behind at all, and very similar cars like we said earlier. But Matthew Forrest being one of the pro drivers, in theory he's quicker, but we have seen some great performances so far this season from our AM drivers. For example, already in qualifying we're seeing one, Cody Steeg, currently sat there 4th overall and well and truly pole in class. So he's sitting 4th overall. The next AM driver has qualified 12th overall provisionally, so that's Sander Kappa for Block It Like It's Hot. But Cody Steeg already setting the pace. That's very wide from Matthew Forrest. Is that enough for a 1X? I don't know. He still had 2 wheels on the painted red and white curb, so potentially he could have saved himself from a 1x there. The checkered flag has now been out for 50 seconds. Through the penultimate corner he goes, a long left-hand hairpin. Then up the incline is a little bit of a hill before jumping on the brakes, and I think that was a 1x. Into the pit lane comes Matthew Forrest, so that has now somewhat put Nicholas Cocato safe. Martin de Jong crosses the line and improves. Finishes his session in 8th overall. Sander Kaffer, has he got another lap? I think on circuit, no, he hasn't. 1 minute 12 past the check.
But he just improved, though. He put himself ahead of Rui Pinheiro. There took 11th. And here is Pedro Cladera. In the anime Mercedes, of which team I have yet again forgotten the name of. And Edward May has told me this many, many times over the months and years. Yet it still doesn't stick with me. For me, it's just the anime Mercedes, and so it shall be, it seems. Anyway, I think that is the final car running on track. Might still have Sander Kaffer out there. Indeed. As he's completing his in-lap.
He's that excited he's going to finish this one very wide over the paint. Obviously this one not being a timed lap. Just getting that extra few sectors worth of practice. To cross the line it should then alter the session and cross it over in towards the race session, and we will be able to bring the grid to you as soon as the session advances. Sander Kaffer still out and circulating. I mean, why not? If the session isn't advancing and you're still out on circuit, you may as well keep on lapping. But just a few more moments, I'm sure, to go until we get there. Go on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think you could discuss that, Jack, because once everybody goes into the pit, the session's gonna take over anyways. The grid order: Nicolas Cocato on pole position ahead of Matthew Forrest, then Jorge Pinheiro and Cody Steeg, leader of the M class on row 2. Overall impressive job from the American there. Sasso Prosen in 5th ahead of Chris Boland, then Pete Plastow and Martin de Jong. Those two know each other well from battles of the past as well. Remco Barlow and Nuno Vinagre rounding off the top 10. Then it's Sander Kaffer and Rui Pinheiro. And of course Kaffer second in AM ahead of Giambattista Giachetti and Aydin-Can Adderberg. Then it's Federico Carli and Chris Roberts in 16th ahead of Sandro Orsini, Alfredo Tricarici, and Chris Pio and Jorge Skuld rounding off the 10th row of cars. 20th place, of course, that is ahead of Ari Sherwood, Matt Sisler, Pedro Cladera, and Rob the Lobster Van den Heuvel in 24th place. 25th is Stuart Jacklin ahead of Sean Nicholson, Timo Paya, Khan Barak, Stephen Orrell, and Matthew Maddox, with Nick McLaughlin, Gaston Maceroni, Orkin Kolak, and Gaston Bori in 34th and last place on the grid. A massive grid indeed, which is going to cause some traffic here on lap 1. That's going to make it quite interesting to see just how they get through that one, Jack. So with the safety car rolling, the field rolling as well. Of course, it's going to be one of the shortened starts in iRacing. And remember some of the older circuits where you still have to do the entirety of the warm-up laps. Some drivers like it, but you certainly do get accustomed to these quickened formats. The safety car peels off into the pit lane on the right. It's Nicolas Cocato controlling the pace of the field here through the final corner, and it's green as they leave it, and he's going early indeed, taking the lead ahead of the Lamborghini of Matthew Forrest, and it's Jorge Pinheiro, the Portuguese. 3 V10s at the front. Let's see if there's any action on the inside of turn 1. Doesn't seem like it. Cocato gets through nicely. What about the rest of the field further down? team. So as well as Pinheiro tries to make a move, but doesn't quite get it there. And it's now that we're gonna see just how easy or difficult it's gonna be for the drivers to overtake Pinheiro all over the rear end, of Matthew Forrest. And positions are being changed further down the order. If you're with me, Jack, which I certainly hope you are.
I am indeed, and I've got to say, you can already see the first three drivers slowly starting to build a little bit of a gap. Nicholas Cacato, Matthew Forrest and Jorge Pinheiro already starting to leave the rest of the field behind. Then we can see Chris Boland up 2 places so far, with the Yorkshire Rose adorning the side of his Lamborghini. Cody Stagg looking to make up some early places. Hasse trying to make back the one he lost to Chris Boland. Biggest mover in the field at the moment has got to be Matthew Maddox, up 6 places. So too is Gaston Borri. This is right the way down towards the AM class end of the field. We've had issues for Timo Paya and Alfredo Tricarici. So too Matt Sissola, Pedro Marimon Cladera and Federico Carli, all down places from where they've started. But at the moment, crossing the line for the first time, it's Nicholas Cacato slowly starting to gain a little bit more confidence in that Audi. He can fight Matt Forrest just that little bit harder. We've seen some great defensive drives up and down the order so far this season. I think we're going to be treated to another, because the last thing Nicholas Cacato wants to do is let Matthew Forrest through, because as we've seen so many times, as soon as one driver forces the door open, you tend to lose about 2 or 3 places. Everybody follows each other through the same gap, and now you can see Nicholas Cacato really being clever here. He's trying to back Matthew Forrest up into Jorge Pinheiro to take Matthew Forrest's attentions from the front to the rear and just focus on defending himself. Very close through turn 4 there, almost making contact, and it is working. You can see Nicholas Cacato just building up a 1,000th here, 1,000th there, and allowing Matthew Forrest to fall into the grasp of Jorge Pinheiro.
Yeah, indeed. Interesting as well, best Ferrari at the moment, Pete Plaster in 7th place. Then a Ford, then a Porsche, then a BMW, but ahead of that, it's all Audi and Lamborghini, with a single Mercedes in there in the top 6. And that's, of course, the car of Cody Steeg, the 555, leader of the AM class, having done so well to qualify in 4th place. Anyway, look at this, Matty Forrest. Oh, he's trying to squeeze around the outside. But as you said before, Jack, and this is very true indeed, you really have to be careful with not, well, I was about to say letting your rear guard stand open. I don't know how appropriate that is in the end, but I've let some things slip out before, so I thought I'd rather have to be mindful. Anyway, the point remains to stand that you really have to be careful of letting the door open, and often when you attack someone, you find yourself being attacked as well from the following driver, and that's just the life of pack racing basically, and it all becomes that little bit more tactical in a way, which is nice to see. So far, it's as they left the grid for the top 4, except for the fact that Chris Boland has managed to get past on Cody Steeg. I think that happened at the start of the race indeed. And it's Sasse Prosen, Pete Plasto, Martin de Jong, Nuno Vinagre, and Remco Barlau. Plasto, I think, has gotten through on Martin de Jong as well.
Yeah, there's just lots of drivers here I want to keep an eye on, because it's almost the tail from pretty much top to bottom of the top 10. There's not much breathing room up the road. You can now see that Pete Plasto is very close towards the tail end of Sasse Prosen in the Apex Tech Racing 4 machine. A little further back, we've got the battle between Chris Roberts and Giambattista Giacetti. They're nose to tail once again in towards the braking zone. Does Chris Roberts decide to go for a move? Not this time. You can see the rear brakes glowing on that Porsche. I know Chris does like a rear brake bias, but maybe not that much. The rear brakes glowing before the front. It tends to be the other way around, but you can see Chris is slowly starting to pick up the pace, up 2 places from where he started some 5 minutes ago. We'll have a little look further back to see what AM class battles we've got going on. Gaston Borry and Matthew Maddox nose to tail. Matthew Maddox once again in one of my favourite liveries, the Absolute Racing Porsche. Right up at the top end of affairs. Fastest lap of the race again, Nicholas Cagato, 1 minute 44.90. 2/10 quicker than Matthew Forrest, and the top three slowly started to get away, but now it's becoming the top two, with Jorge Pinheiro almost bridging the gap back to Chris Boland, so it could be once again 5 for the lead, but it's for the first time, dare I say, Nicholas Cagato is slowly starting to look safe in the lead.
Safe and safe. I'm not quite sure about that, but you can really see Matty Forrest is indeed pushing hard. The thing with the rear weight bias of the Porsche seems to be the reason that the car is often set up to run a rearwards brake bias as well, and it's you wouldn't believe it to be stable like that, but it has so much weight on the back of the car that it sort of makes sense, and a lot of setups are made this way. Enough about the technicalities of the Porsche 911R here, because Matthew Forrest is having another look there on the inside. He's swinging, or to the outside, I'm sorry, swinging to the outside again, but having a run on Nicholas Cagato this time around. And so I might be proven wrong in the fact that I was saying that they would have a relatively easy time overtaking here. That doesn't seem to be the case. Though Matty Forrest is very close this time around to Nicholas Cagato. He doesn't quite have the run on the Argentine driver though. No overlap at all into turn one.
Yeah, they are getting close together. But somehow it's still Nicholas Cagato staying in the lead. A little further back, we do have yet more battles going on. You can now see that the Apex Tech teammates almost nose to tail, almost side by side I should say. Pete Plasto got the best seats in the house just watching this go on. It's back down, not too far ahead from the first of the Fords. We've got Lino Bernardo sat behind, waiting through Nero sat there as well. Sander Kappa not too far ahead. Chris Roberts has now managed to get past Giachetti and is up into 13th overall, 11th in class. Still a lot of time to be gained from Chris Roberts, I've got to say. We're used to seeing him in the top 10, but right the way down in 13th place. And while he has gained 3 places, you'd expect him to be a little bit higher than he is. The lead gap close together again. He's very, very close for second place. A sideways movement for Jorge Pinheiro. That has allowed Chris Boland through, but more importantly, that's allowed the top two to escape.
Yeah, and it's not been a proper off-track for him as well. It doesn't seem to have showed up in our event viewer, but we should be able to have a look at the overtake there for Chris Boland. I sure would like to have a second view at just what happened there to Jorge Pinheiro. Indeed. There we go. So it's a launch up the inside. Oh, there's a slight bit of contact. Leaves the SR Technique Lamborghini sort of hanging there on the curb. And there we have it. Oh, no contact. Unless that's a netcode. He slides by himself. It looked a little strange to me, though. But the fact of the matter there is that Pinheiro has lost the position. As I say that, I think Rui Pinheiro actually lost a position to Remco Barlow. Was that just an attempted one? I'm not quite certain. He has Sander Kappa to contend with as well. In the Ferrari. Oh, and there is... But that's Jorge Pinheiro this time around, going slowly again, getting passed by Martin DeYoung. What happened this time around here, Jack? And let's have another look.
Yes, same corner. Again, loses the rear. Does he keep it out the wall? No, he doesn't. Side contact with the wall. No major aerodynamic damage by the looks of that. Rejoins, thankfully, on towards some asphalt and can carry on without too much of an issue. We'll go back live with him just to see how he's getting on. He's still behind Martin DeYoung, but that's what... almost 6 places lost in the space of 1 lap, and the mistake at the same corner 2 laps in a row as well. That's the worst place you can do it. Nicholas Cagato now back under pressure from Matthew Forrest, only 3/10 separating them. The closest cars on the circuit, Sander Kappa and Rui Pinheiro. They just managed to open a bit of room between the pair of them, a bit of room being about a car length in this championship. Martin de Jong and Jorge Pinheiro, nose to tail, and we get back to another Portuguese driver, once again for SRTechnic, Nuno Vinagre, sat there in 9th place, but the lead gap, it's only getting closer, and what can Matthew Forrest do on the brakes, Hasse?
I think he's sizing up Kukato and maybe just waiting for the pit window to open to try and do something. The leading Argentine driver Sean Nicholson loses the rear end on the AstroTurf and has a heavy impact with what is a relatively soft barrier. That doesn't make too much of a difference though. That's going to be one banged up Ferrari indeed here. Kukato is taking the pressure really well so far, but Matthew Forrest is showing exactly why he's the reigning champion. He's looking left, he's looking right. He's not finding his way through on the Virtual Racing Audi as of yet. He's getting rather impatient, you're feeling here, Jack. Oh, and he does the slide as well there. And he's gone way down the order. Matthew Forrest has lost it. And I was not expecting to see that at all. Just losing the rear end of the Lamborghini all by himself. Has to take appropriate caution rejoining there. He's going to be way back in 14th place, I think. Which indeed has left Chris Boland in 2nd place. Here we have it. Is that just from touching too much of the curb? I think he enters the corner just that little bit too quickly.
There we go.
Here's from Chris Boland.
Find what I wanted to find. That's how close it got between the pair.
That was very, very close indeed.
Turn one once again. Martin de Jong under pressure this time from Jorge Pinheiro on the outside, and it's now 3 SRTechnic cars all sat behind him. Rui Pinheiro, Vinagre very wide from Martin de Jong. That will almost allow Jorge Pinheiro through. It will be the outside for turn 2.
Oh, that's never gonna go well, is it? Oh, I was just about to say so. 3 wide, Jack into turn 2. That's not gonna work out. And it's teammates taking out one another. They're waiting there. Martin de Jong is gonna be furious, I think, about that move as well. I think they're going to have some internal communications there in their SRTechnic as well after that one. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I've got to say, when you're racing a teammate, the last thing you need to do is make contact with them. And whilst it's never really intentional making contact with a teammate, you've got to make sure you're careful. And sometimes you've just got to forfeit one position to save another. And in that case, I think it was, like I say, 3-1 just won't go. And Hungaroring, as we've mentioned a couple of times already this evening, it's not the easiest circuit to overtake on, and they did try it, and whilst it was A for effort, it didn't really work for them. But now you can see Matthew Forrest chasing down his teammate, Chris Roberts. Chris is right the way up in 7th place now, but Matt on a recovery drive for the rest of the race now. Nicholas Kukato well clear at the head of affairs, 3/10 clear of Chris Boland, who is 3 seconds clear, pardon me, 2.5 seconds clear of Cody Stike, side by side with his teammates. Teammates are almost Michael's tonight. Apex Tech 2 and 4 are currently sat there in 3rd and 4th, and then we can see the 2 VRC red machines, Chris Roberts and Matthew Forrest nose to tail. Whilst there aren't really any T-balls, you'd expect Chris to somewhat allow Matthew Forrest to get through, and then Chris can play rig on it. There you can see no real defence from Chris Roberts, allowing Matt to take that, and you can see him lifting off there, the spits of flame on the exhaust from the overrun, just as he lifts off on the brakes. And then more Apex Tech cars, somewhat nose to tail a little bit further back. For some reason it says Chris Pye is still in an Apex Tech car. I don't think that is the case. But at the moment, closest cars on the circuit, Hasse, Matt Maddox and Robert van den Heuvel.
And the Lobster is trying his best for a move there, I think, for 20th place overall. Oh, and getting joined by, that's the BMW of Gaston Boré as well behind. That's, just goes to show what you mentioned about earlier, the fighting around and across the field. It's just, there's always something happening somewhere along the line. I'd like to see that 3-wide attempt yet again. I think that was Nuno Vinagre trying to go up the inside of Martin de Jong, who was trying to defend from whoever that was, Jorge Pinheiro as well. There it is. Here we go. And you can just see... Sorry, but that's maybe the camera angle, and seeing it from the outside, you just see it from seconds. That's never gonna go well, is it? And I'm afraid that's the conclusion all three drivers have come to as well. It's gone bad for all of them, hasn't it?
It has indeed, and obviously that's the last thing we wanted to see. We'll see whether we can get a better camera angle. There we go. So looking down on the, yeah, it's so tricky. Rui Pinheiro, the driver on the outside, left without too much room. Obviously he has to turn in for the corner at some point, and I struggle to get through there on my own. 2 wide is very difficult, and 3 wide next to impossible. And when you're in a racing situation like this, it was never really going to work. It's unfortunate it ended the way it did, but it has now once again completely changed the complexion of the race. We're now seeing Apex Tech teammates side by side, and is that potentially an issue for Cody Steig? No, I think he was just letting Sasso Prosen by, but that has also allowed Pete Plasto by, and we mentioned this earlier, Hasse. You let one car by, you will let at least one more through as well. You never just lose one place.
Pete Plasto is really good at this as well. He's a master of taking these small opportunities when they arise. He'll sneak his Ferrari in through there, and taking him also close to the championship. Indeed, I'm afraid that Cody Steig, I don't know if it's the tires, I don't know if he just lost the rhythm or something, but he seems to be making some mistakes now. Mistakes that he wasn't really making earlier in the race. It's been a strong comeback drive, and a bit of a lucky incident with the 3-car incident from a few laps ago. Really played into the hands of Matthew Forrest, who of course is doing a really sterling comeback drive already, but it just sort of ticked 3 cars off of his list that he went straight past, and now he's closing in on Cody Steig, who's just picked up a 1X there on the exit of the final corner. He's gonna push and push and push there, Matthew Forrest, to see just how many points he's gonna be able to pick up. Here's Chris Roberts coming through on Sander Kaffa. Behind is Rui Pinheiro. Then Martin de Jong in 10th place now. It's been eventful for the Dutchman in the Ford GT. Chris Roberts with the glowing rear brake disc there. That goes back to something that must be considered before your days, Jack, but the brake discs are really be glowing after that sector. And it's true, just the amount of corners and the amount of braking zones, they just keep coming at you, and normally you tend to see the brake disc sort of get a little bit of a respite sometimes, but here they're just under so much stress, constantly under pressure, constantly getting heated up, and they're just continually glowing throughout the lap, and it's incredible to see. It would make for quite some scenes watching this at the black of night. Here Chris Roberts going very wide. That might open the door for Kaffa. Kaffa just let him through though, so he isn't going to try to have... And that's Rui Pinheiro in behind, who looked like he was trying to at least look up the inside of Sander Kaffa. I think luckily he didn't try anymore, because that would have ended in tears.
Yeah, they're definitely nose to tail, and I'm not sure whether you watched it or you've seen a replay of it. I know I watched it live and was bouncing around the room when it happened. 2019, I think it may have actually been 2018, the British Touring Car Final at Brands Hatch, the final race of the weekend. The championship battle was, I think, between Matt Neal, who else was it? Tom Ingram, Ash Sutton, and Colin Turkington, and Dan Camish as well, of course, on the final half of the race. Dan Camish in his Honda Civic, rear brake discs absolutely glowing. They picked it up very early on in the race, and then lo and behold, going through the fastest corner of the circuit, the rear brakes clearly exploded, some sort of an issue, a brake failure, something like that, and then that sent him spearing off towards the on-car barrier. Hopefully no such fate will befall Chris Roberts this evening, but without too much simulation or too much in regards to that kind of simulation in iRacing, it might be okay. But of course, very hot brakes tends to mean very hot tyres, and very hot tyres means mistakes and a lot of oversteer in this case. So we could see somewhat of a carbon copy, but then that's, again, with it being fixed setup, if one Porsche driver is dealing with it, you've got to expect the other Porsche drivers to be dealing with just the same.
That's one thing that you can actually switch around is the brake bias. So he's running it by choice and consent in the end here as Jorge Pinheiro from 22nd is trying his best on Matthew Maddox at the moment. And the 720 Red Pack Porsche. Up ahead, Sasso Prosen has built a bit of a gap now. I'm just looking at the standings here, Jack, but 0.6 of a second down to Pete Plastow. I think Martin de Jong has just gone through on Santa Capra, and there's been a problem here. Oh no! There is some sort of issue, I'm afraid, for Chris Roberts, because he's nowhere to be found. He's not in the pit lane. I think that might just be a very fine example of the curse of Jack Werrell. Ladies and gents, we've seen it before. I'm sure it's not the last time we've seen it.
Nope.
As well. And it certainly struck like a lightning from a clear sky, as it tends to do there, Jack.
Yeah, it's obviously you've got the commentator's curse, and I think me and Hasse have got a very similar strength commentator's curse, apart from there is now just the curse of Jack, because also, obviously, with my dad also being a commentator, I've got the double strength of the commentator's curse, and it seems to strike a little more often than I'd like. And Chris Roberts, a very good friend of mine, unfortunately befalling that fate. Now are at the halfway point, just about. So we've had 22 minutes and 30 minutes of racing completed, another 22 minutes and 30 seconds to go of racing to get to the checkered flag. And at the moment, the closest cars on circuit are fighting for the podium. Sasso Prosen and Peter Plastow 4/10 apart. Pete has been one of those drivers that he's so under the radar. You either see him right up at the top end of affairs and just drifting away, but what he's done today, gained 3 places very quietly off the radar, and he's now knocking on the door of a podium.
He is indeed, Jack. Just to say something to what you said before, we are but mudbloods. We are but muggle bloods to your pure-blooded curse, Jack Werrell, and it's to round it off. Anyway, it's true about Pete Plastow. He does know how to maximize his points output and his placings from a race, even when he doesn't necessarily have the really pointy end pace. He'll still be there fighting. He'll still be there. He's good at taking advantage of other people's in fights, and as we see here, he's finding his car as well. He's trying to force a mistake here from Sasso Prosen. I think that's maybe even the best chance he has, but so far Prosen has seemed pretty steady, and into the final part of the race as well. Jack, imagine that the pitted window will be opening in just a few minutes time, and we have seen the first few cars coming in, but I'm a bit surprised that we haven't seen more. Basically, there's Gaston Maceroni, to whom I still owe a few apologies. I've said it before, and I will indeed give another one for the malpronunciation and the slaughtering that has been going on. I think you can see which direction that would be going. I don't have to mention, I think. He's currently in 12th. He's made up that position here over the course of the final lap, and he's now going up the inside of Giambattista Giachetti. And that is for 11th place, although, of course, it is more like him trying to outrun Nuno Vinagre, the Portuguese driver in the Porsche 911, in behind. Here's Matthew Forrest coming into the pit lane that slight bit earlier than everybody else at the top of the field. And everybody else in general, Jack, you reckon he's going to come out amidst traffic? That could be a problem here for Matthew.
Yeah, we saw it at Motorsport, lots of drivers quitting really early, and then that allowed the rest of the field to obviously go tearing through, slow each other down, and then it got out clearly. But then we saw the drivers that had been battling lose a few positions as well, and I'm not sure whether it's just me, but now with all the lights on, everything looks a little bit better, but Martin de Jong is looking a little bit sideways through most of these corners, and having a lot of experience in this Ford, I know it can be quite unpredictable, and we're seeing it again very sideways. You got to dance that car around the circuit, and I think I remember Daytona at the end of season 1, maybe the start of season 2, Hasse, you said me driving that car, it was like watching a ballerina. I think in this case it's a bit more like street dance, because he's all over the place, lots of jumping, lots of bouncing over all these curves, but somehow he's starting to pull away from Rømer. I'm not sure how he's doing it.
Yeah, he's popping and opposite locking his steering wheel, that is. Oh, and just about saying a little too much, I'm afraid, Jack. He's lost the rear end. He's carrying a bit of damage as well, and you have to wonder if that's what's doing it, or if it's just the tires overheating. Seems the car might be crapping ever so slightly on that left rear suspension. But certainly Martin de Jong is encountering trouble. And you know, it's not like it's making the curse look less strong, Jack.
Yeah, the commentator's curse, definitely not weaker this round than it has been any. I've got to say, Motegi, we got away with it, and I think it's come back to bite us a little bit here. Everybody is befalling the commentator's curse. Closest cars on circuit is still fighting over the podium. Pete Plasto and
Plasto really getting close here. He's going to send it this time around, Jack, to the outside. It is. He's going to get through. Oh, he's getting squeezed on the outside by Sasso Prosen. Pete Plastow is not going to be happy about that for 1 second. I'll tell you that, Jack. That was very close indeed. I think sort of Pete must have seen it coming. That looked like an incident in the making. Could have been the camera angle making it look more dramatic than it necessarily was. But that looked very, very, very sketchy indeed.
yeah, it's very, very close. And you can't really see it at some camera angles. Other camera angles, it makes it look very close indeed. Other camera angles, it makes it look really far apart. And somehow they didn't make contact. You can now see the LED boards on the side of the car slowly starting to illuminate. We'll have a look at the pit stops on the left-hand side of your screen. You can see the leader of the pit stops so far, Remco Barlow, ahead of Matt Forrest, Jorge Pinheiro and Gaston Maceroni. Sandro Orsini's also been into the pit lane, so too has Khan Bardak and Gaston Bordi. So we're slowly starting to see drivers peel their way in towards the pit lane. The biggest mover in the field, I think, is, let's have a quick look, Gaston Maceroni, up 15 places. So no mean feat. Right the way up into 17th overall, 12th in class, and we've just got to keep an eye on who is heading into the pit lane. Sander Kaffer into the pit lane, 9th overall, 3rd in class. So 3rd in the AM class is now into the pit lane. Giambattista Giacetti crosses the line now to take that place off him, but still leading the way. Only 1.1 or 1.7 seconds away now, Nicholas Cacato. So Chris Boland definitely getting closer. I think on the exit of the pit window, these two are going to be trading places.
Yeah, absolutely so. Pete Plastow wanting to have a look yet again. There's no love lost between the two, isn't there? It's going to be an interesting one to watch and to follow through the pit stop, because optimally Plastow hope to be able to maybe just squeeze on through, but that's very hard as well. That you got to make sure you get enough fuel to finish the race on board of the car as well. And Prosen seeing the Lamborghini as well, just seems good here in the middle sector. Cody Steek there, still in 5th place overall, by the way, leading AM by quite some distance. Still looking good. Oh, and Plastow goes for the overcut on Prosen, who goes into the pits this time around. That means it's time for the Michael lap. Jack, he really has to put down the gauntlet over this next lap, fling it into the pits, and just hope for it to be enough.
Yeah, he's got to make sure that this almost in-lap for him, you'd expect it to be an in-lap, or is he going to try and stretch the tank as far as possible? But if he can afford himself another lap, this has to be the quickest one that he can, the one that he can muster. He's got to drive so on the limit, but not too far. Any little gain here will massively maximise, because you've got to make sure that you are quicker into the pit lane, you are quicker in your pit box, and you can get back out again. But obviously, it does mean that anybody that pits early will have a shorter time in their pit stall, because there'll be less fuel to take on board. But then if you pit a little bit later, you can obviously maximise the tyres, and while the track temperatures are getting cooler, you will have a longer time in your pit stall, because you'll have to take a lot more fuel to get to the end of the race. And with the fuel being capped, you've got to make sure that you don't pit too early and you don't pit too late, because running out of fuel and not having enough fuel towards the end of the race lead to the same conclusion, lots and lots of lost places. We will bring the pit stops back up, Hasse, so you can see who has been into the pit lane. Hasse rejoined the circuit in 11th place overall, 8th in class, so not too far adrift, 26 seconds behind, I believe, of Pete Plasto. Into the pit lane comes Pete. Is he going to have a good stop? It's an okay entry to the pit lane. Nicholas Kakato, our race leader, continues on. Chris Boland also into the pit lane, so Nicholas Kakato now 8.5 seconds to the good in the lead. It'll be interesting to see where Chris Boland comes out. Back towards the mid-pack, you can see Matthew Forrest trying to work his way past Sander Kaffer all the way around the outside. He's got to go the long way around in towards the penultimate corner. Running very wide in the background as well is Gaston Maceroni, almost 2x2 in towards what will be turn 13. Through turn 12 we go now, up towards turn 13, and once again we're seeing it. That was Sander Kaffer trying to let Matthew Forrest by. He then lost out to Jorge Pinheiro and Gaston Maceroni. Retaking to the circuit now is Pete Plasto, 4 seconds behind Chris Boland.
Ahead,
more importantly,
Plasto's ahead of Prosen.
Indeed, well spotted, Hasse. 4 tenths ahead of Sasso Prosen. So it seems like that Michael Schumacher lap came true for Pete.
And to take a podium place there for Pete Plasto. Beautifully pulled off, but there's still going to be some traffic to contend with. That's Atakan Adaberg is on the inside. Oh, that's going to be slightly dangerous for the Lambo, but they've made it past. Has yet to do his first pit stop. I think he's saving quite a lot of fuel to bring that car in. He's not going very fast at all down there. Kukato's coming in now. I expect Cody Steek and Rui Pinheiro to very much follow through on in, and we'll see just how far ahead of these two Nicolas Kukato is. But of course it'll be to the advantage of Kukato that they've been battling on like this. And the more they fight amongst themselves, the easier of a time Kukato is going to have. As we're coming in towards the final 10 minutes as well, we've got all about 11 left to run and race for this one. And Nicolas Kukato is back out. Chris Boland is in second place now. Not too far down, actually. So those 8 seconds has become 2.5 by now, Jack.
Yeah, so
2.5 indeed, yeah.
Definitely that gap has opened up. It was 1.7 seconds into the pit lane, so almost a full second gained from Nicolas Kakato. Yeah. You can see where he's done it as well. The pit stop time for Nicolas Kakato, 9.6 seconds. Chris Boland, 11.5 seconds, so 2 seconds quicker in the actual pit stall itself. So Nicolas Kakato really playing strategy to himself now. There's only 10 minutes of the race remaining, so Chris Boland has got to find that pace and unlock another gear, really. We'll have a look at the weather so we can see the conditions. The track temperature 28 degrees, so very cool. It can get colder, it probably still will get colder, but there's going to be plenty of grip out there. The air temperature 27 degrees now, so you'd guess that the air would slowly start to cool the circuit, and obviously while the asphalt is getting worked in by all of these cars, a general rule of thumb, the darker the sky gets, the cooler the track gets, and I think we'll slowly start to see that as the race goes on. But at the moment you can see it's Audi leading, from Lamborghini, from Ferrari, from Lamborghini again, and then we get back to the first one to Mercedes, and Martin de Jong still in 7th place in the first of the Flying Fords, very well indeed. He's one of those drivers again, he's never right up at the very, very top. We've seen him on the podium a couple of times, he's had some great performances, but he's so consistent, he's always in that top 10, just lapping away, getting consistent points, and it stands him in really good stead for the championship towards the end of the season.
Last season as well in the Audi, he had a number of race wins as well. Was maybe slightly more competitive in the Audi R8 than the Ford GT, and I think being up there in the in the top 10 in the Ford GT is just a trait to the speed that he's carrying, because it's not to say that it's necessarily off pace by a country mile, but it's an old machine, and it's just bound to be that little bit more unruly, I think, than many of the other machines on the grid. And I think, as one that has driven the Ford GT, as you mentioned, Jack, it's something that you'll co-sign to yourself. Anyways, lead in 7th place, Martin de Jong.
Yeah, I've got to say as well, I mean, I've got to get it in there. I'm not sure whether this is my mind failing me, but have we had a Ford win a Sunday GT Masters race before?
No, I don't think so. I'm not quite sure.
Can I cast your mind back to Daytona?
Did you win at Daytona?
I might have done that before. I might have won at Daytona, but have we had anybody else? That's what I'm curious about, because obviously I haven't.
You did win at Daytona, didn't you?
I did win. Yes, I did.
Lights to flag. Made it look easy that day, dancing around. I remember that. Brilliant one, yeah.
Yeah, I've got to say, but I think Martin de Jong massively deserves as many podiums as he can get. But is that an issue, or is that actually just a lapped car working their way by? I think that could have been Timo Paya just letting everybody by. Yes, it is. He's going very, very slowly indeed. He's not got any cars around him, but just no cars in position. He's just letting everybody by. But I've got to say, Martin de Jong, for such a consistent driver, he deserves to be on the podium a lot more than he is. But then that just shows credit to how competitive this field is, because it's always so close. No matter how quick you are, no matter how consistent you are, you're never really guaranteed a great result, because there's constantly something that can change. It could be, if it's open setup, it could be something to do with the setup. If it's fixed setup, it could be something to do with the circuit, the weather, anything like that. The amount of practice you put in before. Of course, we've got 3 practice sessions throughout the week. We've got FP1, 2 and 3, 2-hour sessions on Monday, Wednesday and Friday before the event. So it really is a full event, the Sunday GT Masters League, with there's lots to look forward to on the week running up to the event, and then the actual race on the Sunday night. So all these little things that can alter the race on the Sunday, I think we're slowly starting to see, because the drivers that have done more practice really start to shine through. And at the moment, Martin de Jong is holding back 3 Lamborghinis, Rui Pinheiro, Matthew Forrest and Jorge Pinheiro, so it's still their racing team in the way of Martin de Jong, followed by 2 SR Technic cars, sandwiching the VRC red car of Matthew Forrest, and it's only getting closer. Look how little room that Forrest has got to play with.
That's incredible to see it. And as you said earlier, a car length is when you have about safe space in this series, because it's quite rare to find yourself with even more than that here. Matthew Forrest seems to have been held up a bit, and he's having a hard time fighting through here. Having a good old look up the inside of Rui Pinheiro, but decides against any sudden moves. That's a bit of a one. Yeah. Creates the space. They're gonna just touch on the exit of the corner, and Pinheiro might just hold on to it. Nope. Not gonna happen. Matthew Forrest up into 8th place there. That was a very nice move. He sort of really caused the mistake himself by putting on so much pressure, and it's now the Pinheiros in behind as Jorge is trying to get past Rui, but it's still Rui ahead of Jorge, incidentally. Up ahead, Cucato leads Bolin, Plasto, Proton, and Cody Steek, the M-Class leader in 5th place. Ahead of Remco Barlow, Martin de Jong, Matt Forrest, and then the Pinheiros in 9th and 10th place indeed.
Yeah, so everybody is definitely getting closer, and that we're slowly seeing. It's almost like a sieve, I think. We're seeing. It's a quite a weird analogy, but we're slowly starting to see the slightly bigger, quicker drivers are staying where they need to be, but the drivers that are really struggling, maybe on tyres or with setup, or generally just the circuit, they're slowly starting to fall through and fall down the order a little bit. It's like I say, it's a bit of a weird analogy, but in my head it makes sense. And Matthew Forrest, now you're seeing he's slowly starting to work his way back up through the order after the incident slightly earlier on. But Nicholas Cato, still 2.4 seconds clear. Chris Boland, I'm going to call it now. I don't think he's going to get close enough to even challenge for the top step of the podium, barring any mistakes from Nicholas Cato. Of course, you can't rule that out. Pete Plasto behind, still just about within striking distance of Sasso Prost, and there's only 9/10 separating the pair of them. But now we're seeing Matthew Forrest and Martin de Jong get closer once again, so it could now allow Matthew Forrest in towards the top 7.
Yeah, and I think with the speed that he's been catching Martin de Jong with here, Matty Forrest should be in a good position to at least try something within the final few minutes here. And indeed, even though Chris Boland was 2/10 up on Nicholas Cato on the last lap, I don't really think that's going to be enough for Chris Boland to be able to actually catch up to the Argentine. And it looks to be a win. If he can keep it cool out there in the lead, Nicholas Cato has driven a sterling race so far. He did so well to defend from this fella early days. And you just saw them fall off the pace here as Martin de Jong. That's a bit of a dicey moment. That might open the door for Matty Forrest. And of course, it's now Jorge Pinheiro who will be ready to pounce on any mistakes from these two.
So now in the final 2.5 minutes of the race, it really is getting close for these final few spots in what is in theory the top 8 overall. Definitely the top 8 in the Pro Class. Cody Steig, faultless race so far. He's only lost 1 place. The AM driver is 1.2 seconds clear of Remco Barlow behind. So definitely the standout driver for me so far this race. 2 minutes of the race remaining now. And Jorge Pinheiro really closing up on the tail of Matthew Forrest. Matthew stuck really behind Martin de Jong. Of course, battling slows you down, but we're now visually seeing this as well because Jorge Pinheiro closing up, definitely getting much closer. Martin de Jong under ever increasing pressure, coming over to defend late, almost contact between the pair of them, and somehow they managed to both stay on the track. And you can see Matthew Forrest, he went for a move, he couldn't quite get it, and that has cost him just enough time to allow Jorge Pinheiro to start working his way through. And now we're seeing Matthew Forrest attack back again at the inside. He pulled out of that move mid-corner, but then nose to tail Hasse, and this is exactly what we'd expect to see from the Sunday GT Masters.
Now, this is what we expect to see, well, basically every time it's on here, as the darkness really seems to settle in over the Hungaroring. It's a close fight indeed for 7th place. Martin de Jong still has a few more minutes. I think he'll have a single lap after this one that he'll have to hold on. The question is, will he be able to? Jack, I don't feel like calling this one at the moment. You could see Martin de Jong defending it, but Matthew Forrest is all over his tail.
On to what will be the final lap of the race now, Hasse. Nicholas Cato across the line just a few moments ago. Matthew Forrest 3/10 in front of him, he's got Martin de Jong. 3/10 behind him, he's got Jorge Pinheiro. So nose to tail as expected, but on to the final lap of the race they go now. So another 1 minute 45, 1 minute 46 minutes of racing, and that's all Matthew Forrest has got to play with. You can see them darting around all the way down towards turn 1. See a slightly higher camera angle here, brake disc glowing, and you did say it would look good under the lights, and with the lack of lights, it looks even better because you can see every little spark, every little heat signature being produced from these cars. Martin de Jong still sat there in 7th place overall, 6th place in class. We'll keep an eye on Nicholas Cacato on his run up towards the line, but at the moment Matthew Forrest still a quarter of a second behind, and it sounds quite large when you say it, a quarter of a second, but that is literally 2.5 tenths. There's nothing between them. That's just about a car length. So there's really nothing to pick between them. Matthew Forrest taking a slightly different line, trying to maximise his exit, then into the heavy braking zone, bouncing the car over the curbs through the chicane. And like you say, you can't really call it until they've already crossed the line, Hasse. Now you can see Nicholas Cacato somewhat safe. I'll let you call him to the line.
It has been a textbook drive from Nicholas Cacato, and lights to flag victory for the Argentine, for Virtual Racing, and for Audi as well here at the Hungaroring. He can flash his light, he can celebrate. It's a win for Nicholas Cacato ahead of Chris Boland and Pete Plastow, who gets the final spot on the podium. Cody Steek here in the Apex Tech Mercedes. The 555 machine takes the win in the AM class as well. After an equally impressive drive, it has to be said. Very, very nice job by Cody to finish this race in such style, with Edinkan Atterberg in 2nd in AM, and then Sander Kaffa done a very good job as well, finishing 3rd in the AM class. A lot of action today, Jack. A lot of fighting has been going on, and it's been, as we said, and as you said just a few minutes ago, what we expect of the Sunday GT Masters. It's been it.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of nose-to-tail action, a little bit of contact, and with this being an into-the-night race, we saw that slowly play a part with the track cooling down, and I'll try and pick out who that is there. Whoever's in 30th place, Matt Sisseler, a lot of damage on the front end of his Mercedes. Can't quite remember when he picked that up, but he did cross the line in the end to finish in 30th place. We think we have almost everybody across the line now. Stuart Jacklin, one of the final drivers to cross the line. Then it's Arkon Kolak rounding the final corner for the final time for racetracknotes.app. Crossing the line now to take the checkered flag. We will have the results available to us. We will go through the overall results, so from top to bottom, and then we can quickly flash up the pro. Actually, no, we will stick with the usual way. We will go through the pro standings first. So it's Nicholas Cacato crossing the line, the eventual overall winner and winning in class. Chris Boland finished 2nd overall, 2nd in class. So too did Pete Blastow in 3rd. Sasso Prosen finished 4th overall, 4th in class. Remco Barlow 5th in class. However, 6th overall. Then we get back to Martin de Jong, Matthew Forrest, Jorge Pinheiro, Rui Pinheiro, Nuno Vinagre rounding out the top 10. Then it's Host Schools, Gaston Mesironi, Chris Roberts, Pedro Marimon Cladera, and Nick McLaughlin finishing in 15th place. And Hasse, over to you for the AM standings.
Thank you indeed, Jack. Cody Steek taking the win for Apex Tech ahead of Aydin-Can Atterberg, and Sander Kaffa rounding off the AM class podium. Giambattista Giachetti gets 4th ahead of Sandro Orsini and Chris Pio, with Karn Barak, Matthew Maddox, then Stuart Jacklin and Orkan Kolak rounding up the top 10. Gaston Borg gets 11th ahead of Stephen Orrell, then Robert van den Heuvel, Ari Sherwood and Timo Paya in 15th, Alfredo Tricorici, Matt Sisseler, and Federico Carli for Gabbiano in 18th place in AM. And there's also Sean Nicholson, by the way.
And there's one more at the bottom. One more at the bottom.
There's also Sean Nicholson, by the way.
Yeah, he did finish the race. He was here today. What we will do is we will get some nice replays up in the background, and we will see, Hasse, who we can bring in for a interview. We have Matt Forrest, Pete Plastow, Cody Steig, and Chris Boland. Your pick.
Well, we gotta get Cody Steeg in there. Let's get him in here first of all.
Here he is. He's all yours.
Cody Steeg, welcome to the comms booth, and congratulations on a very, very strong drive. Class win, and the foundations, the footwork led in qualifying very much so, with a very, very nice 4th place. Did you know already coming into the race with the practice in hand in the weekdays here that you had this kind of pace, or was it a bit of a surprise?
I mean, I figured I'd be towards the top of the amateur class, but I didn't think I'd even play with the pro guys.
And at a track where overtaking is, well, rather difficult, it's a perfect place to do so. And Jack and I were very impressed with seeing that. I don't think we've seen anyone in the AM class being that far up in qualifying. So that's a first for the series as well and for this format. Um, it puts you in a very good place for the race. Were you in any way concerned about getting too involved with the pro drivers at the start of the race?
Well, I mean, I knew they'd race clean. I wasn't afraid as far as being in their way and getting punted or something like that. But, I did find myself pushing a little too hard and decided to kind of back it down and let Pete and my teammate there go past me.
And then, of course, taking the checkered flag, taking the win here. What a beautiful way to end the race weekend. And thanks for taking the time to join us for a bit of the word here post race. Is there anyone you'd like to shout out or like to give a thanks at the end here to round it off while you're live on the air?
Certainly. Of course, the league organizers this year is kind of a change up with the pro and the AMs. I think it's been fun. Give us, slower guys generally something to fight for and have some fun with. You guys do an amazing job with the broadcast, of course, and then my teammates and the push for practice that's come with racing with these guys, and Apex Tech Racing Supply, Pro Sim Rig, Base Performance Simulators, our sponsors. They all help to make it possible for us to put the time in and have this fun.
Cody, thanks again for joining us. Thank you so much, and congratulations on a great drive and a great class win today.
Thanks, fellas. Have a good one.
So that was Cody Steig that in for an interview. Thank you very much, Hasse. A good interview indeed. We'll see who else we can bring in. We can bring in our race winner. Hopefully we don't bring him in a conversation. No, we don't. Nicholas Cacato, welcome to the commentary box. Somewhat of a, I don't want to say easy race, because at the start, if you'd had it your way, you'd have been gone and disappeared 5 seconds up the road. But Matthew Forrest, he made you fight for that early on. A few mistakes a little further back, of course, helped you. But with strategy, you only pulled more of a gap. It really came your way.
Hi guys. Yeah, it wasn't an easy race. The first laps, it was a very close fight with Matthew, very clean from his side. Unfortunately, he spun, and then after that, I tried to manage the gap with Chris that was 2-3 seconds behind, but yeah, it wasn't easy at all.
No, he really. Yeah, I've got to say.
Happily, it went okay. I'm really happy.
Yeah, it really made you work for it. Indeed, it was great to watch. Hungaroring is a circuit that has got a bit of a reputation for being very tricky to overtake and somewhat tricky to follow as well. Lots of undulation change, a blind corner, a chicane, a couple of hairpins. How confident were you heading into this round of the championship?
It was my first race here. I just bought the truck, so I practice a lot. I hope to have a good race, but not this good. We've been practicing the whole week to the overtaking points, and there was almost no point. So I tried to aim to a good quali, but didn't expect pole. So yeah.
Well, it really worked for you, and obviously this being a circuit that hosts a raft of events, Formula One, W Series, International GT Open, it's a circuit that can really cater for all requirements, and it seemed like tonight you added to that well and truly, throwing the Audi around here, making it work, and some more valuable points for the championship as well. Is the championship something you think about?
Yeah, of course. Last season I entered on race 5. I couldn't fight for the championship, but
Yeah.
this season I hoping to be in the fight. So I think with this result, I'm currently in a good position,
Yeah.
but there is a long way to go yet.
Absolutely, but this only being round 3 of 10, we've still got lots to look forward to, lots more racing, and once again, a massive congratulations from myself and Hasse and everybody else here at GT Masters for a very good win this evening, well deserved. Before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank or shout out?
I want to thank Robert, Pete, and all virtual racing compound team for making the league possible and the great organization they made, and also to Gaston Mastroni, that I don't know how we did today, but finally after more than a year together racing, tomorrow we are gonna meet in person, so just a hi to him.
Yeah, it'll be great to hear how that goes as well. But thank you very much for joining me in the commentary box, and once again, another congratulations for the win this evening, but we'll see you at round 4.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Nicholas. Cheers. So Nicholas Kakata, I'm afraid that is all we've got time for. But we got to speak to our Pro winner and our AM winner. Another good race meeting here at the Sunday GT Masters, and it's another circuit ticked off the list for the championship as well. The first time here at Hungaroring. Of course, a massive thank you to Grip Engineering and SIMRACER Coin, our sponsors. Grip Engineering, as we mentioned earlier, brings the experience and methodology from the real World Championships of the World Rally Championship and Formula E to your sim rig, and the first introductory season or session for Grip Engineering gets you a 20% discount as well. So make sure you go check Grip Engineering out. SIMRACER Coin, it is the new cryptocurrency for sim racing. Hopefully it should slowly build up into something where you can pay for setup files, paints, pay for sim racing services like coaching, everything like that. So they're really starting to grow as a business. Lots to look forward to there as well. So make sure you go and check out SIMRACER Coin. For myself, Jack Werrell, and Hasse Rømer here in the commentary box on the Virtual Racing Compound channel. Thank you very much for watching round 3 of the Sunday GT Masters. We will see you at round 4. Thank you. Bye-bye.